fellow musicians, welcome to the 30-day challenge, switching from Reaper to Cubase. Over the next 30 days, I'm going to learn Cubase, and my goal is to complete a full project by the end of this journey. The last time I used Cubase was about 15 years ago, so I'm excited to revisit it in 2024 and see how it holds up. Let's find out together if it's still as good as I remember. Before we start, I'd like to let everyone know about my computer specs to give you a better idea of what my hardware can handle. The model of my laptop is the Lenovo Legion 9i. It is one of the highest-end laptops in the world. The processor it uses is the Intel i9-14900, and the graphic card is the RTX 4090. I recently upgraded the RAM to 96 GB. There's a video of me upgrading the RAM on my Instagram if you want to check it out. I also upgraded the storage to 2 and 4 TB. I used Logic Pro before switching to Reaper, and there's no going back. Even after 4 years with Reaper, I wouldn't call myself an expert because there's so much to explore and customize. While I'm not a tech expert, I do know about Ria Script, which lets you edit, run, and debug scripts within the DAW, and you can call any Reaper action. Today, I attempted to learn how to set up Contact in Cubase. Apologize if I made any mistakes, as I'm just beginning my journey with Cubase. I spent about 5 hours figuring out how to configure Contact outputs and route the instruments. I watched at least 20 YouTube videos, but none of them were helpful. Today, I finally figured out how to configure Contact in Cubase on my own, but I'm still not entirely sure if everything is set up correctly, though it works somehow. Setting up Contact in Reaper, however, is super easy. It only takes about 2 minutes. If you're interested in learning how to set up Contact with multiple outputs in Reaper, let me know in the comments. If I get enough requests, I will post a short tutorial on my channel. Welcome to day 3. I'm bringing the project I'm collaborating on with the YouTube musician Synthbiker into Cubase. I hope that by working on this music, I will become more familiar with this new DAW. Aside from a few bugs I encountered, like this pop-up window wouldn't open, everything else worked well. Maybe I did something wrong without realizing it, but I guess we will figure it out by the 30th day of this challenge. Today I was testing some features in Cubase. I noticed that many volume knobs were adjusted to a random value. I don't remember I was touching any of the knobs. I was hoping to double-click on the knob to reset the level to 0, but this isn't a feature in Cubase. In Reaper, if you just double-click on the control knob, it will set it to the default value. Now I'm facing another problem. I can't seem to import a video. I'm reading on the forum and seems like people are saying that Cubase might not support MP4 of certain codecs. And let's try the same for Reaper and see if it will import the video successfully. Well, I cannot show you this video because of copyright issue, but the video is working well in Reaper. Today something unexpected happened. I was working on my project and left it open in Cubase, but when I came back from dinner, Cubase had just frozen. Welcome to day 6. Today, I'm learning how to work with the picture in Cubase. Well, I have to admit that I failed. Whenever I changed the tempo on the tempo track, the picture would expand or shrink, which visually confused me. It made me think the picture had been sped up or slowed down, but it hadn't. In Reaper, if I want a moment to match a beat, I can easily adjust by just dragging the points on the tempo map. Today, I encountered another challenge. I absolutely can't figure out how to phrase a specific track at the top of the project window. I know I need to click on the slash in the top right corner, but instead of phrasing the selected marker track, a random track gets frozen. In my case, it's always the track named sampler track that ends up at the top. Although I can work around this by dragging the sampler track out of the box and moving the marker track into it, it's still a bit frustrating. I still don't get why we need to manually add a marker track, and once the marker track is added, I have to click on the plus button to add more markers. In Reaper, all you have to do is to press the hotkey M to add a marker. People often complain about the UI design in Reaper, especially the colors, saying it looks too ugly. Well, I disagree with that. You can actually make Reaper look quite pretty and neat. As for Cubase, well, I can't comment too much on this because I'm not an artist, but I don't really like how the interface looks, and especially the background, it always looks overwhelming and difficult to see the bar lines. Okay, fellow musicians, I have to say that I'm really struggling with Cubase. Most of of the time, I'm just lost in the interface. I don't know where to go or what terminology to search to find the right setting or button. In Reaper, there's something called an action list. Basically, I just type what I'm looking for in the action window, and it shows me everything related to that action. For example, if I don't know where to find the video window, I just type video and toggle it on. You can pretty much find anything. In Cubase, I have to learn everything from scratch and just figure out everything one by one. Let's talk about the interface today. Personally, I believe Cubase gives users a misleading impression because as soon as you open an empty project, you see so many panels and functions, and you're like, wow, this must be something professional. Reaper, on the other hand, when you first open an empty project, it visually tricks you into thinking it's very simple and can handle complicated tasks because there's nothing. But that's not true. I personally prefer a more minimalist interface. It makes me feel refreshed. If I want to add more functions, I can always build onto the simple existing foundation. Maybe you're the opposite of me, and I totally understand that. In that case, Cubase might be better for you. Today, I'm trying to solve the problem with the buffer size in Cubase. When I set the buffer size too large, there's too much delay during recording. And if I try using a lower buffer size to reduce latency, Cubase starts to glitch. Well, you might say it's because the sample rate is too high. I've tried all the different combinations of sample rates and buffer sizes, and there's just no sweet spot. Yesterday, I was struggling with the buffer size, and I was trying to come up with a solution. Well, obviously, Reaper is the solution. Cubase begins to glitch at the buffer size 512. However, if I use the same buffer size in Reaper, everything will work fine. So in Reaper, I'm usually setting the buffer size to the highest. Everything works totally fine, no glitches, and even almost no latency at buffer size 1024 and sample rate 176/400. And if you've watched the beginning of this video and the benchmark test of my laptop, you probably already know that my laptop is capable of handling heavy work. So I guess that says something about how much Cubase can handle. On day 14, something destructive happened. When I first downloaded Cubase, Groove Agent was embedded in the software, and it seemed like this VST was free to use. And as a Reaper user, someone who would never be tricked into using free trials only to be forced into purchasing the products later, I was naive and innocent. Now my collaborator is waiting for me to send him the track tomorrow, and I don't have the drum sound in the track. Today I finished the collab music with Synthspiker. The video has been released and you're welcome to click on the link above and give it a listen if you'd like. Okay, I'm officially starting to use Cubase to work on a music project. I'm considering bringing this orchestral piece which I'm writing for a band into Cubase. I've already written the orchestral score in MuseScore and the band is asking me for a MIDI version of the piece. In the end, I need to send them an MP3 so they can reference it while practicing. But given how much I've been struggling with Cubase, it feels a bit too risky to dive into a project like this. So this might be brought into Reaper, and if I get a chance in the future, I wish to show my fellow musicians this orchestral piece. So for now, I've decided to play it safe and create a super short piece in Cubase from scratch. Today I spent some time setting up the project and loaded some instruments I had in mind. I find the most difficult part of switching to a new program is getting used to the shortcuts. Today I'm having some trouble using just the most basic keys. I imported an audio track just to do some testing, and there's no way to delete this track. Then I figured out that as a default, I have to press Shift and Delete to remove a track. This is what I've composed so far by day 19. Let's have a listen. Today I added one more layer to the music, and I think this part sounds pretty good. Today is day 21. Let's talk about software updates. In Reaper, I constantly see new updates. When it's time to update the DAW, the first thing I see when I open Reaper is a pop-up window asking me to proceed to the download page and get the newest version. This type of update comes almost every week. With Cubase, it's been several weeks of using it. I'm not sure if there had been any updates. You might say Cubase is well developed and doesn't need more updates. Maybe makes the Cubase launcher load faster. It does get stuck sometimes. Welcome to day 22. Just so you know, I'm not working in Cubase for hours every day. I've only been spending about 15 minutes on this project since I started it. This is day 23. Today I finished most of the music, but I've also been dealing with some eye strain. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the white grids against black backgrounds. Funny enough, when I googled can black and white cause eye strain, the first thing that popped up was pure black text on white backgrounds can cause eye strain when users read the text over an extended period. It turns out this phenomenon is called luminance contrast. Essentially, it says that white has 100% brightness and black has 0% brightness, and this disparity can make your eyes feel tired. Today I discovered something very fun in Cubase. This is a chord pad. If you ever need to use these chords here, you can just click on them and record. So I paused for a few days since I mentioned having some eye strain. I've been trying to figure out what the default Cubase interface reminds me of. It feels like I'm constantly staring at X-ray images. Today I discovered something new in Cubase. You can record different versions of a track. For example, with the lead, the current version you're seeing is version 1. I can add a new version from this drop-down menu, record a different version, and toggle between them to compare and decide which one I prefer. This is pretty handy, but what I'm really curious about is whether it's possible to record different versions of specific takes. In composing, most of the times we often debate which version to use for certain phrases or moments. It's rare that we need to change an entire instrument track and erase everything to start fresh. Today I finally finished the track. For the next 2 days, I'm gonna do some mixing. I'm not going to go crazy with it. Today I focused on exploring Cubase's own plugins. Honestly, I'm not super impressed by them. I can't speak much on all these plugins since I'm not a sound designer myself. However, most sound designers and engineers I know, including a few people who design Contact library instruments, all use Reaper. I haven't met anyone who uses Cubase for sound design purposes, but if you do, please leave a comment below. As I was considering mixing my music in Cubase, I decided against it because of the Groove Agent scam incident. Now I'm very cautious about using any VSTs or plugins labeled Steinberg. Today I finished mixing in Cubase. I found a really good tutorial on mixing in Cubase called Learn Cubase How to Master. If you wanna master Cubase, you can go check out this video. Welcome to the final day of the 30-day challenge. Let's have a listen to the final version of the music I made. Welcome back everyone. After 30 days of using Cubase, I want to share my experience as objectively as possible. Cubase gave me a 60-day free trial, but I couldn't use it continuously due to other tasks. By the end of the trial, I didn't feel compelled to purchase it. Maybe Reaper, which I've used for many years, already meets my needs, or perhaps I didn't have the patience to explore Cubase further. Cubase also lost appeal for me after I encountered a few glitches in the first few days. I'm sure there will be plenty of debate in the comments and among fellow musicians about which DAW is the best, but you can only know what works best for you by trying it firsthand. Given my long-term experience with Reaper compared to just a 30-day trial with Cubase, I can't definitely say one DAW is better than the other. If you ask whether I'd continue using Cubase after this 30 days, my answer is no. I've already switched back to Reaper and plan to continue with it. If there's one takeaway from this video, is this: many people feel that the DAW they use is the best, and often defend what they're familiar with while being reluctant to try something new. I found it challenging to approach Cubase with a completely open mind. That said, learning something new is valuable, and Cubase does have some unique features. So if a DAW doesn't seem to work for you, it might not be because it's bad, but because it simply doesn't suit your workflow. Exploring different DAWs can be beneficial, and you always have the option to switch back or even use different DAWs for specific purposes. In the end, the perfect DAW is the one that best suits your needs. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.